Welcome to Nigel part 62, where Nigel is in the lockup having his mild restoration. The new boot lid is on, but we have a couple of issues. One issue was that it was rather dirty, and I've managed to give this a really good buffing up. Now that is a shine, but we can see as we move along evidence of some respray going on there. And just here we can see even more because we've had some bubbling up of the paint. So that's all started to come off the moment I started buffing it. I'm going to have to make some sort of feature out of that because the actual blue paint is missing. But one thing I can fix right now with lacquer is this here. All those tiny little scratches all appearing in one little place. They don't look particularly good, do they? It would be a bit mad of me to suggest that that was the worst bit of the car, but at least I can just quickly fix that bit. Saturday, the 10th of February 2024. Do you know that bit? You probably didn't know the date, but the Saturday bit, well, let's stop waffling. The progress on Nigel. I'm just currently doing a bit more buffing on this because what I actually want is for every bit of paint that we have to shine like it's wet. And this particular tool has now been properly repurposed. You see, I have the big powerful one that I got off of Neil, which is there, the big yellow DeWalt thing that has an unbelievably quick motor in it, but it is exceedingly difficult to control on anything other than a flat surface. So, and for small areas as well, it wouldn't really be a good idea to try and use it on this or that or this bit here, or anywhere really where it could snag and catch, because it's got that much power, it could just snap off whatever it hits. It is coming up exceedingly shiny. Although the trouble with this boot lid is that it has had a bit of respray work on it. Yes, it has. And that can be seen by the joining just there. Do you see that? Whereas the rest of it I think is actually original. The colour match is excellent, but it does have a couple of flaws. And these bubbles that have now popped, I'm not really sure what I can do. Because I can pretend that's some sort of feature. In fact, yeah, that's a special feature. Oh, there, the 42 will go under there, and maybe it's space. Maybe that's a constellation. If it's any constellation, I can find a way around it. Before I can apply the ceramic magic coating, I need everything to be thoroughly clean. But then I also need to stick on the badge and scribble on the Project Nigel thing as well. Because otherwise, if I do it with the ceramic coating, it's not going to stick, is it? Monday, the 12th of February. That is nearly halfway through the month. But it's not quite. In fact, need another couple of days. However, the progress on Nigel has just not been quite as much as I was expecting. And because it is a Monday, my day will soon be interrupted in a way that I'm just not even going to be bothered to explain. So, a quick extra job on Nigel now, and then it's swapping over to another video. As the back end of this has been pretty much polished up about as good as it's going to get, it is time for the Nigel signature. My original signature, as you can see, was just somewhat scribbled on, but it worked. But that's not going to stop me from making a comparison between that one and the one I'm about to put on. And I'll end up thinking for sure it's not quite as good as the original. And I really am getting myself bogged down with some pointless details here. Trust me now to write on the back of my own car, Project Nigel, and spell it incorrectly. I've done it once and I didn't like it. And I think the thing is I was trying to copy the original rather than just what the original was, which was just simply a flamboyant scribble on the back of my car. There was no thought involved, really. And I did it too big and stuff, so I'm just going to scribble it back on again in red. And if I really like it, I'll go over it in white. Here again, I find myself copying the original. Because it's in red, you can't see it too well, and that's the idea. So it comes off easier, especially whilst the paint is still ever so slightly wet. But you know what? I think that will do. And so now I'm basically going to draw over that carefully, like a non-scribble signature, which does kind of defeat the object, in white paint. Rather typically, I'm feeling a little bit I can't think of the word because I've got a spoon in the way. I'm not sure if it looks just a little bit too flamboyant now. Look at that, it's like liquid blue paint. And welcome back to this episode of Nigel in Bits. I've had a fearful time today about this car. Turns out it was okay. But now I want to continue with this tailgate. But to finish that off, I need to do some repair work. I need to try out my soldering, because rather typically the boot loom has got some splits. It's got one broken cable there that I didn't know about, and it's got all sorts of bits here that are chafing and about to go completely wrong. In the past 20 years, this boot has been opened and closed quite a lot, and that is awful lot of strain on this little wire there. According to Senior Mustard, the best thing to do about this wire, where it's gone hard and brittle, is to cut there and just add a new section in. That does seem like twice the amount of work that I want to do, but he does know what he's talking about, so that is what I'm going to do. I don't actually have a wiring loom like this anywhere. But I do have a box full of wire, which will do. The wires aren't going to match, but as long as I use the correct thickness of wire and do them one at a time, it should be okay. That could be completely wrong. Came out of a ZR with some electrical issues. And when I took it all apart, I found all these bits just joined up with tape. In fact, joined up, not even soldered, just joined up, twisted round. Yep. That is the first wire I have done, and as you can see, the shrink sleeving is disguising my terrible soldering job, but hopefully it is adequate. Now I've got to do another one, and the rest of them. Maybe I'll just get better at it as I go along. As you can see, this is a rather sped up recording of me doing bits of soldering on the wiring loom. It was fun, it took a while. Soldering the boot wiring is not something I was looking forward to, because for one thing, soldering is not one of those things I've really learned to do. I've just had a go at it a few times, and half the time it didn't really even work anyway. It all feels pretty secure, so hopefully it will do. And if it goes wrong, then I know what to do about it next. The next rather exciting part of this job is to feed the wiring loom through the bits in the boot. Again, something I've not been particularly looking forward to, because I figure it's going to be quite tricky. This bit of wiring loom goes in the boot. That bit goes into the boot and feeds up here, I think. But the truth is, I can't remember how far it actually goes. But it looks like it goes all the way to the top up here. In fact, I think it does. It must do. Yeah, it'll go up that way, won't it? This is quite tricky, trying to feed that through a hole there and then all the way to the top so it pops back out. So I'm trying something else, which is to take a big thick piece of wire, try and feed it through down there, tie it onto the end of it and then pull it through. And that's not working either.
This part of the video has been muted because the radio next door was way too loud. In fact, definitely loud enough to be able to be heard clearly and for you to be able to tell that it is indeed Lionel Richie playing, and I am a bit afraid of a little copyright strike.
Even expressing my annoyance at it.
I'm going to go home, aren't I? But the daft thing is, as I locked up, he'd switched the radio off and gone.
I am desperate for this part of the video to come to an end. Day 14, or in other words, the 14th of February. And having struggled so much yesterday with trying to get the boot loom in, I thought today it'd be easier if I took the car outside and did it in the rain. Finally, I've managed to get the wiring loom attached to this bit of tube. Rain is something we have in Britain. It's now the 15th of February and this boot has been, it's not something I ever really fancy doing again, unless of course what I'm about to do next turns out to be not such a big deal. You see, I did actually have a bit of a moan. Well, I said moan. I did put it on my group, Rover and British Marks, about the regret of even doing this job, and a few people come up with some rather sensible advice. Senior Mustard being one of them. Right, so if this doesn't work, let me show you. This pipe stuffed through the hole, attached to some welding wire, pulled the welding wire through and then attached it to the wiring loom, which I've taped up like that to make it a bit more streamlined. I'm going to go a step further as well and actually put some Vaseline on it. And if that has to be the job done then. I actually done it. But you know what I didn't do before I even pulled that through, and I only just realised it now, was to test out the electrics after my soldering. Now imagine if that didn't work. Imagine if I cocked the soldering up. Oh, shite. Well, rather typically I plugged all the electrics in and none of them worked. But then I discovered that the plug down at this end wasn't plugged in, and that'll be why it wasn't working. And then I didn't plug an earth in. And to be honest, I don't want to be stuck on this car all day. I'm already a couple of hours into it, and it's supposed to be just doing a bit here and there throughout the month. But I just want to finish that boot off. So I'm going to stick the number plate on, clean it up and do the thing, you know, bung the number plate on and do the ceramic coating, and then I can put the boot spoiler on and plug that in, and then the other bits, and hopefully another half an hour. One of the problems with these ZR spoilers is the rattle. They move around too much. So I'm going to fit this with lots and lots of double-sided tape. Just in time for the rain. I promised myself that the boot would be an episode. So, however long or short this video is, it's now finished.